After coming from a monster hunting party, Qin Lai's party goes home to celebrate, only to find out that the Ling clan has been brutally murdered. Qin Lai's GF was then killed and he almost got killed but was saved at the last minute. Saved by his grandfather's friend, Qin Lai was told his girlfriend is still alive and breathing, including his best bro. The old man also told him that joining the armament sect is the quickest way to find clues regarding his girlfriend's whereabouts and his best friend, Gao Yu. And so Qin Lai decided to join the sect in hopes of finding a piece of valuable information about Yushi's location. Several trials later and Qin Lai is already disciple in the sect. However, things suddenly turn upside down when Qin Lai reunited with his best friend, Gao Yu. He tells him he survived and uncovered something more sinister than treachery: the Profound Heaven Alliance. Basically, the admins of the human server are plotting something: the invasion of the spirit realm by sending in horned demon warriors to launch a full-scale invasion of the continent and wreak havoc and do evil stuff. Fast forward to a random moment in time that we don't know. Liang Shaiyang enters Siki's room while she's having a conversation with Lian Ru. Upon being asked, Liang claims to be there to take her life and summons his flying swords. He starts to attack, but Siki uses fire to refine his swords into her own weapon. Meanwhile, another guy heads to the location until he's attacked by some shadows from the Anying Lu clan. Our random guy uses water drops as the power to fight the shadows, so let's call him Water Boy. Meanwhile, Siki tries her best against Liang's swords but he summons a huge one. This forces Lian Ru to use her ice skills to try and block it, but she somehow gets hit. Siki uses her blood to make a fire array around her while Ru uses an ice shield prism. Somehow Siki makes a furnace, but it cannot last against Liang's sound attacks. Luckily for the girls, Water Boy appears and then also Qin Lai arrives. And so to save the day, the trio attacks Liang. Qin Lai manages to block most of Liang's attacks, even with his teeth. But when Liang summons a guillotine, Siki and the Water Boy help Qin Lai, so he can deliver the final blow. However, the power gap is too big for them to damage Liang and he remains unharmed. The attack gave Siki the time to sneak in to restrain Liang's right hand. Water Boy also somehow restrains the left hand, which is enough to let Qin Lai deal with the finishing attack. But Liang uses his most trusted servant as a shield and headshots Qin Lai. While in midair, Qin Lai finds himself inside his mind. In his own mind, he basically can only see tons of chains and then sees his real personality restrained by those chains. Basically, he has the legendary god bloodline. At the same time, when he was 10 his memories and powers were sealed, mostly for being too strong, and for being a twisted violent kid. So his twisted side just assumes control of Qin Lai's body, heals the hole in his forehead and freezes Liang's hand. Anyway, Qin Lai blasts Shanyan with the power of his violent inner kid and turns Liang's servant into ice, crushing it afterward. Evil Qin Lai insults Liang for being soft over his dead servant, who's also a long-time friend. Then he proceeds to go full Elsa on them, freezing the entire room with his ice magic. Evil Qin Lai doesn't care about Siki or anyone else in the room as he continues to deal with ice damage, freezing everything regardless of friendly fire. However, Siki steps in and tries to stop evil Qin Lai, but our guy slaps her away, delivering the final hit to Liang. But when he shoves Siki away, her hair is undone in a way that resembles Yushi, his lover, which awakens the pleb Qin Lai in him. Qin Lai breaks from the evil Qin Lai's control and regains his body back. Evil Qin Lai knows that if he does something stupid, he'll also perish with Qin Lai. And so, Qin Lai is back to normal and falls back down due to exhaustion. Meanwhile, Liang insults Qin Lai for the last time and tells him he envies him, before falling off the cliff. The next day, news of Liang's death arrives at the Dark Tower Manor. The master of the manor orders his men to prepare an attack and launch a full-scale assault on the armament sect, as an act of revenge. Of course, the armament sect isn't aware of this yet. And so, we move to our MC, Qin Lai, who's now enjoying the full-time privileges of being a prisoner. Everyone in the armament sect knows he killed Liang, so he's now detained for the time being. Siki visits and thanks him for saving her and her subordinate. Qin Lai tells her to leave, but Siki mentions something about Yushi. Before she can say anything else, the armament sect's security chief comes in and takes Qin Lai to the sect's headmaster's room. Inside, they meet the Dark Tower's messenger, telling them to hand over Qin Lai or else they'll attack the armament sect. Siki wants to replace Qin Lai as the prisoner, but Qin Lai insists on being taken. But the headmaster tells them that the Dark Tower Manor will attack regardless of whether Qin Lai is there or not. After the headmaster leaves, Gao Yu appears and reunites with Qin Lai. Gao Yu wants to take Qin Lai away and protect him since he owes Qin Lai his life during the hunting raid a few days back. However, Qin Lai insists on staying, and so the security chief tells him to follow him as he's got the right job for Gao Yu. Later that day, everyone's on high alert as a possible attack of the Dark Tower Manor is inevitable, and they might strike anytime. Siki is ordered to guard Qin Lai and keep him on a leash at all costs. It's alright, she's quite waifu material. While walking around the inner grounds, they suddenly meet a foxy woman. Siki attacks the woman and chases her, and so the group follows her as well. The woman leads her into the 12 Pillars, which is the testing ground for the armament sect's genius students. When Qin Lai and Siki finally arrive at the Pillars, Qin Lai meets an unexpected guest. The foxy woman tells them she has someone with her, but Siki tells her she's not afraid of her and her backup. But Qin Lai's eyes are already glued to the backup, who is revealed to be his long-lost lover, Yushi. Qin Lai goes after Yushi, trying to confirm if she's actually the real Yushi. The entire reason Qin Lai is in the armament sect, trying to become the best refiner, is because of her. Reunited at last, Qin Lai and Yushi can finally be together and live happily ever after. Psych, Yushi attacks Qin Lai, but Siki saves him by taking on Yushi on her own. Siki realizes that Yushi is not behaving as she should and fights her. Qin Lai stops them, but Yushi attacks him relentlessly. The foxy woman blocks Siki from interfering and ties her onto the column. However, Armament Sect's greenhorns arrive as backup, but they, too, take an L from the woman and get badly beaten. Meanwhile, Qin Lai is really taking the time of his life, getting a massive beating from his possessed girlfriend. And just as Yushi's about to strike him down, Qin Lai shouts her name, and she finally gets free from mind control. However, the old woman sticks her tongue out and puts her leash back in Yushi, continuing the mind control. Qin Lai really likes taking multiple LS from his girlfriend, but when the opportunity strikes, he finally sees the grandma doing some really nasty tricks and figures out that she's the one controlling Yushi. So he goes after her, but much to his surprise, Yushi stops him once again, and just as Yushi's about to hit Qin Lai again, the best waifu song appears and saves Qin Lai's life by knocking Yushi out. Yushi falls to the ground and Qin Lai can only do nothing but watch. Song waifu interrogates the old woman, asking her what's her play, why is she involved in this ploy, and what the hell is she hiding? Of course, Granny won't tell her anything, and so Qin Lai tries to move. Once again, the foxy lady stops him, knocking him out cold next to a pillar. Song waifu then knocks the foxy lady out, and then Granny tells the foxy lady to stay out of Song's business. Things start to heat up as Song tries to ask Granny what she's hiding, but Granny won't say anything. However, as the two are about to fight head-on, the ground starts to shake and the pillars start to tremble. Meanwhile, our boy is unconscious and is currently in his soul form. Qin Lai arrives at an unfamiliar place. Inside, he meets a chained old man tied to a pillar. The old man tells him his name is Zhu Lai. Basically, he's the guy that was imprisoned in one of the pillars for 1,000 years by the armament sect. The old guy tells him to come closer and tells Qin Lai that by doing so, he'll get what he wants. Once Qin Lai is near enough, the old man blasts him with his energy, chaining Qin Lai's soul. The old man attacks Qin Lai with his blood and tries to enter the object embedded inside Qin Lai's head while chaining him. The entire armament sect is in chaos as they're suddenly attacked by 8 stupid clans, all banding together to take them down. Holy hell, mother of Buddha. All because they killed Liang, the revenge plot device. Meanwhile, our boy Qin Lai arrives at another location inside his mind, where he sees Yushi, who killed and massacred the Fengjia town's villagers. Qin Lai tries to break free from the old guy's chain, and he did so by overpowering the chains to the point that he can break them. Qin Lai's body starts showing lightning sparks as the ground continues to shake, and then suddenly, all the 12 pillars start to light up. A few seconds later, the pillar's light combines into one giant ray of light, piercing the skies. The armament sect headmaster sees this, as well as everybody else. The armament sect elder tells the headmaster to head to the pillar's location and investigate what's going on. And so he did, while the remaining members of the armament sect sacrificed themselves so the headmaster could escape. The daughters of the Profound Heaven Alliance band together to deal with the bad grandma controlling Yushi. But before they can interrogate the enemy, Qin Lai steps forward and tells the girls that he'll have something to ask the granny. However, the foxy lady tries to sneak attack him only to get stopped by Zhu Lai, who is now Qin Lai's servant. Zhu Lai vaporizes the foxy lady and Qin Lai tells him to deal with the granny, which Zhu Lai did so with ease. Zhu Lai then molds the granny's body into his blood and asks her questions. According to the woman, 3 years ago, Song's dad reached his limits and couldn't get stronger. However, a mysterious bandaged man appeared at the Profound Heaven Alliance Hall and told that he knew how to increase his overall powers. This person is called Envoy. He's the mastermind behind everything. The Envoy basically wants them to join the dark side of the Force. Later, it was found out by the Ling clan, of which Yushi is a member. Yushi's the sole survivor of the massacre, and seeing her clan members already dead, she turned into a human with nether powers. Basically like Gao Yu, except with much stronger and more raw power. During that time, Yushi's staying with Gao Yu and Qin Lai. Qin Lai is supposed to guard Yushi, but it's more like staying on her side to protect her. On one of those days, Yushi meets the Envoy telling her that he knows how she can get revenge, and so she goes on a rampage and kills everyone. This is basically the vision that Qin Lai had seen during his confrontation with Zhu Lai. Yushi is the nether that massacred Fengjie Town, which Qin Lai was trying to prevent from happening. Yushi's basically being toyed with by the Alliance Master and the Envoy, and was a pawn all along in their schemes, since she's basically the power source the Master needs to grow his power even more. For several days before the start of Qin Lai's journey into the armament sect, the Envoy and the Master tried to unleash Yushi's full power, but they failed, and that's the reason they brought Yushi into the armament sect, so that when she finally kills Qin Lai, as a result, she will transform into a demonic god, ushering the Master into unimaginable heights for his power. Hearing this, Qin Lai is really mad as they got played with. Qin Lai wants to deal with the Alliance Master once and for all, but before they can do anything, the Master arrives. The Master's daughter and his servant attack him but fails due to how ridiculously strong this dude is. So Zhu Lai decides to take the grandpa on a bucket list duel. While the two senior citizens are fighting, the headmaster arrives at the scene and asks Qin Lai to rebuild the armament sect as its new master. But before they can seal the deal, various mobs attack them. Siki and Qin Lai team up to deal with the enemies. Everyone arrives at the scene. Literally everyone. Water Boy arrives intending to kill him. The Alliance mobs arrive to kill him. Basically, everyone that's pretty important is all fighting a battle royale inside the Pillars area. The Alliance Master powers up, but Gao Yu arrives and attacks the Alliance Master. The remaining armament sect arrives and attacks Qin Lai's classmate, and Yushi's about to transform once again into a demon. But before she can do it, Qin Lai transforms into whatever Super Saiyan spiritual master warrior he is and lifts all the pillars with his power. It sends a devastating blow that pierces the inner circle of the pillars, disappearing before everyone else. While everything is in chaos mode, a mysterious man appears from the skies and descends into the battlefield. This is all for this anime. Give the video a like, and I will see you in the next minutes.